Thank you for joining us. This is a little bit of a last minute thing, but I have no doubt that you will greatly enjoy this. And then many of you are probably now watching the replay, and I hope that this serves you. So, Jim, I want to spotlight you. My team's going to spotlight both of us.
First,
Welcome.
hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. I know you got a lot going on, so I'm glad to do this with you and people that work with you and people that follow you today. So they're going to get a lot out of this. Sorry, back to you. I just wanted to say hi.
You're so sweet. Your energy, every time I see you, it's like Christmas morning. It's
Well,
just
thank you.
You're just such a lovable person, and you are in so much integrity all the time. And if I
Yeah.
counted every time somebody told me that they either listened to your podcast and it changed their life or listened to you on my podcast and loved it, I just am so happy to know you and connect. Yeah, we just flew back from LA on Monday, and it's been like, hurry up, and then we have more to do. But it's been so fun to be connecting with you over the last several weeks and months. And I want to dive in, and we'll probably use some of this also to put on the podcast so that more people will be exposed to this conversation. So,
Sure.
if it's okay with you, I just kind of want to dive in and get a little bit deeper than we went on the first show. I want to talk about our subconscious mind, because God only knows. Type a one in this chat if you've already read at least a book, if not 1,000 books on the subconscious mind, right? We've all been awake long enough to know that we understand the premise, but we don't understand how to activate or change the program. And if the software program that's running in your mind is wired to scarcity or doubt or shame or guilt or whatever it is, you get to a point where you're like, cool, I understand what you're saying. I have no clue how to change it. And that's where you come in. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Well, let me back up there. Normally, I would not say this on any other podcast except yours, but let me back up here, then we'll come right back to that question. I am the sole owner of my life, not the sole SOLE, but I am the SOUL owner of my life. Now, to go back to what you said, because this will be applicable to 3D. I have many students from all around the world like you do. That's not uncommon this day and age, you know? And in TCP, the Transformational Coaching Program, there was one point in the 2021, 2022 years where we had about 100 people from India in TCP. And then you talking about, because I want this is an important point to share before we go into the subconscious mind. So many of these people are known, they know that they're born to paint and to dance and to do art and to be, so to speak, artists of some sort in some kind of profession. But in that culture, as you said, rightly so, they take on other people's karma, meaning they take on other people's soulful energies. And that, okay, let's say I'm Indian and I want to be an artist, but my mom and dad are both PhDs in India, and they say that I have to get a PhD in engineering. I hate engineering, but I'm going to do it because it's going to actually keep peace and make my mom and dad happy. So I acquiesce and I give up my life to live their life. And I see that culturally all around the world. And many people that I've worked with from India, one of my best friends in town, she and her husband, he actually is Muslim. She is Hindu Indian. That is a no-no. But both of them are like, and there's some of them was you would love them. And if you're ever here, you will meet them. Beautiful people. And basically both of them are like, we don't care. We're going to live our lives. This is our calling. We are in love. And they've been married now like 25 years and beautiful kids, but they're living their own path and their own dharma. And that is so vital. And that takes something you didn't mention, but you probably thought about it. That takes courage because the fear comes from the ego. And that takes the courage to, hey, my soul is saying I need to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to follow my soul. Now, I said I would say something I've never said before on other interviews. So there's a whole movement right now that started many years ago, but it's really big right now because there's so many people online yakking about the subconscious mind. And I get that because I do too, but I've done it now. I've married it with transformation. Most people they will be hypnotists, okay? And I was talking to my brother-in-law. We've talked about it for many years. And he said, most people think there is a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. There is no subconscious mind because we attribute that subconscious mind to the human, to the individual human identity. And so I'm going to ask you and everyone else, where's the mind? Where's the mind, guys? Scientists can find the brain, it's organic. They can't find the mind. And the reason why, Kathy, you know the answer. The mind is everywhere. It's like we're in a soup in the universe, and that is consciousness and universal mind. So what we hold consciously is what we automatically imprint in on what people call the subconscious mind. And I don't talk about this like in other podcasts because a lot of people they won't get it. Your tribe will. But what we hold in conscious thought is what we automatically impress upon universal mind, which many people call the subconscious mind. And so then what we do is subconscious mind, literally, its job is to correspond to us and deliver whatever we're holding consciously. In the Bible, you and I are both spiritualists. I'm not a Christian, I'm a spiritualist. And there's the old passage everyone has heard before, according to your beliefs, be it done unto you. Well, what you believe consciously is actually what we create automatically in universal mind. Because universal mind is kind of like over here reading your conscious thoughts, and your conscious thoughts can be, I'm so unhealthy. I am so broke. I'm so lonely. Universal mind over here says, okay, that's what you say. That's what will be delivered to you. So it's really a matter of, and I agree with everything you said, but it's a matter of understanding. Saint Germain said, if humans understood how the universe worked, they would cease to believe in miracles. So we don't believe in these things. So we live because let's go here now, which was the first part of a training series I released starting today, a free training series. And you have the link to that, which leads people to it. But we grew up in a world that's all 3D. Are the kids okay? Are the kids back in school yet?
The kids just got a puppy, so the puppy just walked by the window.
Got it. I've been there, done that. I got a puppy out on my back deck right now. So all of us, we learn to become who we are through our indoctrination. John Locke said, the British philosopher, we are born a blank slate, tabula rasa. We're born the blank slate, and then the world, and you said it when we started, writes on that slate and tells you what you are. Oh, okay, so you're born into a Jewish family, you're Jewish. Catholic family, you're Catholic. Muslim family, you're Muslim. Poor family, we're poor. Rich family, we're rich. Black, we're better than, less than, more than, whatever, or whatever it is. We learn these things by cultural socialization as kids, and then we forget we've learned them. Final comment here. Aristotle said, give me a child until the age of 7, and I will show you the man. So basically, what he's saying is any kid put in an environment until about the age of 8, and it's really about the age of 9, we develop our self-image before the age of 9 years old. We live that for a lifetime, not even knowing that we're living it, but we inherited that entire self-image from our socialization and our parents and our school and our media. We lose ourself in the world.
Hmm. So going back to, and I know it's like the biggest question, how do you actually change that then? If you're having the experience over and over of Groundhog Day since you're 8 years old because it's been coded into the way you developed your personality and you would like a different life, you need to change that which you are thinking and believing. And it's one thing to tell yourself to do that, but it's another thing to actualize it. So what
Yeah,
is
that's beautiful.
what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Um, you ever seen, and we're going to pick a woman, you ever seen a woman in a relationship and it's an abusive relationship? And everyone in the family knows that she really needs to get away from that guy. That guy is bad news. And so then what happens is, and by the way, she's dated other guys like that guy, and people are always watching this family member or friend, and they're always in an abusive relationship. And she gets out, and now she's free, and everybody's like, oh, thank God Susan's out. She's free now. She's away from that guy who used to abuse her. And guess what? 90 days later, Susan says, hey, I met a new guy, but it's always the same guy.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why, the next question I'm going to ask, have you guys wondered? Hit the chat box if you would, please. I know it's her podcast, but I want to know where you guys are mentally. Hit the chat box with the one. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to change permanently? If you've ever wondered why it's so hard for me to change permanently, hit the chat box. Okay, so we got some ones coming in. One, one, I love, thank you, Kathy. One, 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 one. I got it. Okay. Now, mentally, we say, I want a better and different life. I want more money, better health. I want love. I want all these things in my life. But there's a concept that was discovered in research at the University of Texas in the 1970s, and a lot of research done there by a college professor on this. And it's called, number one, disintegration anxiety. Disintegration anxiety is when, okay, let me back up even further. There's a part of the brain, not the entire brain, but a part of the brain that does not want to change. It does not like change, and this is the primal part of the brain. The analytical part of the brain listening right now says, yes, I want change. As a matter of fact, that's why everyone is here, Kathy. They want change of some sort. So we say it analytically, but then we go back and we repeat our same patterns over and over and over and over again. And then we're like, why do I do this? Why is this so hard? Why do I keep drinking the wine and eating the sugar and not working out? And why sabotaging my relationships? And why do I struggle with money? Well, what happens is when we try to change and we start changing, disintegration anxiety kicks in. Disintegration anxiety is from that reptilian part of the brain that says, no, we don't like change, so I'm going to sabotage you and pull you backwards. This is why when people start working out and they start seeing results, many times they might sustain them for a bit, but they fall right back into their old patterns again. So that's one reason. Number two, and there's more of these in the free training, but another one would be predictability. There's a part of the brain that operates from predictability. Many thousands of years ago, when we would leave the cave and hunt for food, we didn't just say, hey, honey, I'm going out to club a deer and I'm going to go look for food. We would actually look out the door of the cave. Is there a saber-toothed lion over there? Is there a saber-toothed lion over there? Is it safe to get out of the cave? Because I am predicting how safe it is to get out of the cave. When we can't predict our future, we go into anxiety and fear and right back into our comfort zone, which is our old ways. So to answer your question in a very thorough way, but a roundabout way, number one is we don't even know about it, and I'll come back to your question. But secondly, when we try to change, there's a part of your brain going, no, 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 I'm going to pull you right back into your old ways again, even though you're thinking that you want more. Now, to answer your question succinctly, it's really not even about the subconscious, even though people talk about it, and I do too, because at least they can understand that and conceptualize it. Here's the way to say it. You don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. And we all are a subconscious identity that we have learned through our experiences. I, for example, in the 3D world, my dad was an alcoholic. And I would watch him start projects when I was a little boy, and he would never finish. So, what do you think I learned about follow through, Kathy?
You don't do that.
I don't have to commit. I don't have to follow through because dad did it. Now I'm learning this as a little boy, but I don't know that I'm learning it. I'm just observing it. So this is why you got kids and many people here do. The kids, having small kids is the most vital time in their entire experience on this planet because you are teaching them how to be and who to become by the examples that we're setting for them. So people want to go in, they want to do all this fancy hypnosis, and I teach all that and I do all that. But the main thing, Lao Tzu said, mighty is he who has power over others, mightier still is he who has power over himself. Most of us don't recognize our power. We have no power over this physicality, over this physical being, and then it just runs rampant from our childhood, from all these things we learned about how bad we are and how we're not good and how people aren't going to like us and how we're different and how people are going to judge us and how they're going to hurt us. And for me, how money is hard to make. So we have this programming as a small kid that runs in the background. Like right now, you probably have a cell phone next to you. I do too. I can't read it without glasses, but I've got a battery, and the battery is probably at 57%. That battery is running all the time. As long as it's charged, that battery is running in the background as an app, but I don't even know it. Your subconscious, my subconscious, and everyone here, who we are is always running in the background like an iceberg, but under the water, running in the background, sabotaging everything you do or supporting everything you do. This is why we can only do what we are. And when people think about that, that hits hard. We can only do what we are. And to demonstrate that, and I promise I'll stop and go to the next question. Kathy, how many cigarettes did you smoke this morning?
A zero.
Why not?
I've never smoked a cigarette in my life.
Oh. So you're a non-smoker.
Non-smoker.
Would you say if I give you a cigarette right now and said, "Hey, Kathy, you got to smoke this," would you say it's going to be easy to smoke or hard to smoke?
Not happening.
Notice this, guys. We don't do, or she can't do, what she is not. What she is at an identity level is a non-smoker, and that automatically matriculates into her behavior, which then creates her outcomes. We can only do what we are. So let's say that and I was for many years because I grew up poor. Let's say that I am poor and I learned that at an identity level. That is what I am. That is what I talk to myself about. That is what I metaphorically cast to the universe. The universe says, okay, you're a poor kid. We're going to show you the environment to confirm that. Everything in your life demonstrates that you are a poor kid. We have to shift the identity, meaning how and who we see ourselves. And then back to what you said is we've talked about this before. We have to know ourselves as soul because when we know ourselves as soul, then guess what? We recognize we have power to create whatever it is we want to create in life.
Oh my God, people love that. That was so good. Yeah, before I was born, when my mom was 9 months pregnant with me, my grandfather, her father, died of heart attack from smoking cigarettes. And so I was told that. And so never was there ever one time where I was interested in that because it was like
Yeah.
that was the gospel. And it's really interesting what you said about that connotation, not connotation, but like the depth of how we either see ourselves as poor or not. And I was thinking about my father's parents who lost everything to the Nazis in Europe, and
Yeah.
yet even though they lost everything and even though they went through literal hell, my grandmother used to, in her one bedroom apartment, set the table for like high tea. And I remember thinking, this woman has nothing. She's poor. She lost her family. They've been murdered. But she saw herself as like a debutante because before the war, her parents actually like they owned a lot of things and they were really, really wealthy. So she didn't see herself as poor. And I remember my dad, even though he was raised in Brooklyn in this one bedroom apartment where he like slept on the floor, whatever, he had this same consciousness of like, I'm not poor though. And then my dad, even though he was deaf, went to Columbia, became a doctor. Like he wasn't, and that you just helped explain that to me. It's like my grandmother's consciousness wasn't the consciousness of
That's it.
the circumstance because she just until the age of 8 before the war, she lived a certain way. And then she just continued it regardless of what was actually true in the bank, which is really interesting.
So everyone write this phrase down if you're not driving, please. If you are driving, just come back to it later. The only reality is consciousness. That is it. Because see, Kathy, without consciousness, you and I would not be on the planet in physicalness. Right now, you have an EEG and an EKG and a physical body. There is energy and consciousness keeping that alive. The only thing and the only reality is consciousness. And the word that you used was my grandmother was not conscious of being poor. She was conscious of being the debutante. Whatever and wherever you hold your consciousness, and we're conditioned and learned to hold it at much less than what we are. Wherever you hold the consciousness is automatically, it's in science, physics, called the double slit experiment. Wherever you hold the consciousness is automatically what the universe delivers right back to you as self-verification and confirmation. So your grandmother could say, I'm wealthy in my mind. And somebody says, well, no, you're not. It's not going to change. Yes, she is wealthy in her mind. But if she's poor in her mind and somebody says, well, you can be rich. No, I'm poor in my mind. Another example is I used to speak at the same events with Donald Trump did many years ago. And I didn't listen to other speakers. I've never heard him speak except for 15 minutes. I was waiting for a friend. We are going to go to dinner in New York City. And Donald Trump said from the main stage, back in 1992, I was broke. I was walking in the streets of New York. I saw a homeless guy, and he said he was $2.9 billion in debt. And the homeless guy, he said that guy was just broke. That guy had more money than me. Now, 10 years later, back around the year 2000, why was he back at about a billion, $2 billion again? Because in his identity, in his self-image, he was a rich man. Let's flip that. We're always going to bounce back to the self-image. Mike Tyson, who grew up in New York City, Mike Tyson made $330 million in his career. How come years later, Mike Tyson was dead broke? Why? Because even though he did the behavior of creating the environment and the money, his self-identity said, no, we're the poor little kid from, I think he was from Brooklyn or Bronxville. We're the poor kid from New York City. So even though he made all the money, boom, he reverted right back to the identity. Like your grandmother reverted to the identity. We do it and it's completely not conscious. It happens automatically. So I asked you if you would smoke and you said not a chance. You didn't say, well, I'm talking to Jim and it is Wednesday. I don't, I'm just, I bought a new house. Maybe I'll think about smoking out here. We got a new puppy. It's stressful. I'm going to smoke. No, you just said no, absolutely not. You automatically revert to identity with everything in your life. Relationships, money, health, everything. This is why the identity is so vital.
Oh my God, it's really, really powerful. It's interesting because my other grandmother, my mom's mom, even though she came to this country with nothing from the Ukraine, and then my grandfather, who's the one who died before I was born, he was the smoker, but he started the business that made the cardboard inserts for men's dress shirt
I
collars.
remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
And then even though she had more money than my other grandmother because his business really blossomed, until the day she died, she would save food to the point where her fridge was like packed. She wouldn't let herself spend money. She only went to the library, which she loved, but she wouldn't spend money on books. She wouldn't spend money on it. It's like the identity of being this little girl in a tenement. I'm actually taking my kids to New York City to go to the Tenement Museum on the Lower East Side because that's where she grew up. And she always lived in that tenement. It didn't matter that she actually did better than my other grandmother, but it's really interesting as a example of what you're saying. She had the consciousness of being poor her entire life. And there it's actually wild because as you said that, I'm like, wow, circumstantially they both actually had the opposite, and yet one lived a certain way and one lived another way. So when it comes to the identity, it's very powerful stuff. It's so powerful that it's really all we should be talking about, which is
Yep.
what is the identity you carry? And then the question, how do you change the identity if you're walking around feeling like someone who you're not? You're walking around feeling like an imposter, you're walking around feeling like a fraud, you're walking around feeling like you're not worth anything.
That's all
How
not
do you
knowing
change it?
yourself. If you feel any of those things, what you're really saying is, I don't know myself. Now, people think, well, okay, I'm Bob or I'm Jim or I'm Susan or I'm Mary. How do what do I know more about Bob or Susan or Jim or Mary? Every New Year's, my brother-in-law would hug me, Don Javier, the shaman, and he would say one thing: I hope you come to know yourself better this year than last year. Now, he's
Beautiful.
not meeting at a 3D level, like a name and money and identity as a human being. He's meeting soulfully. We don't know ourselves soulfully, and then we don't know how to function practically because the self-image drives us off track with our money and everything else. I'm going to come right back to your question, but I want to go to the Lower East Side. I used to live in New York City. Why do you think most of the Jewish population lived in the on the Lower East Side back around the early 1900s?
I mean, I know that's just where, communities were segregated. Italians lived with Italians, Jews lived with
Right.
Jews.
Yeah.
And it was, what's that movie with Daniel Day-Lewis, Gangs of New York? Like, they were all different communities.
Yep. When I lived in New York, you have Soho, you have the Upper West Side, you've got Tribeca, you've got the Lower East Side, you got the West, you got the Village, you got, all these little epochs of demographics. We gravitate to our own demographic to confirm our identity. Your grandparents weren't going over to, let's say, Koreantown or Chinatown in New York City. Why? Because that is not me. I don't identify with that. So again, it's the identity driving us. So how do we change this? There are two ways that we do when I work with people for 13 weeks. One is this, is no one changes anything for the most part like that. It is an immersion. You learn to become Kathy, not in one day, not the day you popped out of the womb. You learn to become Kathy over a progression of your life. But notice the operative word, you learned. We learn to be who we are at an identity level. So we learn this as a kid. You can read, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The first time you picked up a book, could you read the entire book?
No.
No, you're probably what, 4 years old back then? I don't know. So how did you learn to read?
Practice.
Oh, repetition, huh? So here's how we train the brain through repetition. And we have to actually go through repetition for a couple of months to solidify the new identity that we want to hold. But the problem, this is why most people fail. Okay, I'm broke today, so to speak, and I want to be rich. So Jim says I've got to hold the identity being rich. Day number one, I'm great at it. I hold the identity being rich today. Day number two, oh, I forgot about it. Let me go back and do it. Day number three, I got so busy, I didn't do it at all today because that part of the brain doesn't want you to change and it pulls you back. I'm going to be very transparent and very real and very honest. You need a system to keep you on track because you will fall off track. That's what people do. And you need a system and a process to keep you on track, whether you work with me or you develop your own system. But many times, again, the brain will sabotage you. If you don't do this through repetition, the identity will never, the new one will never set in and solidify.
It's so brilliant. It reminds me because it's giving me so much context for my life right now, what you're saying. So I wrote about this in my book, but I now am getting more wisdom out of what you're saying and why this worked for me so well. But I now realize that the reason why meeting Rabbi Aaron was a complete game changer is because he told me a new identity. He said, "You're a masterpiece, you're a piece of the master," which is in chapter 1 of my book. Then he said, "You're someone, you're some of the one." And those two statements, which he fully believes and knows and embodies, help me understand that Kathy Heller was like this avatar, like this emoji that I'm dressed as, but who I am at my identity level was like totally connected to the infinite, that I was a soul. So
Yeah.
that is why now I'm real like that's why that was the most powerful game changer, is because those 3 years in Israel for me was an identity change. And then we have people translate Hebrew so poorly, but they say there's like commandments. Actually, the word in Hebrew for the commandments is mitzvah, which actually means connection. And
Hmm.
those are the system, right? Obviously we all have different practices. Hindus have practices, but now again, those practices, right? When you light Shabbat candles, when we sit down to Sabbath dinner, we say certain things. And what are we always saying? We're reaffirming the identity of the
Yep.
soul, of who we are, which is why, and I'm not saying that everyone who does this feels rich, or everyone who, right? I mean, again, it depends the way it was taught to you. And I'm sure many people, because gosh, people do a lot of interesting things with religion. I'm sure many people have told their kids other things about what these things mean. But I'm saying for myself, the ritual really matched the identity, which is probably why that system was so powerful for
And
me.
reinforced.
It reinforced it all the time. Yeah.
This rabbi, what he did, Goethe said, and back, hundreds of years ago, we always used men. I mean, men instead of just people or women too. But Goethe said, see a man for what he could be, and he will become that thing. So the rabbi saw you for what you are, and you became that thing. mainly also because you respected the rabbi. If you
Right.
didn't respect the rabbi and you didn't respect him at all, and he said that, you wouldn't have heard it in the same way. Now, some people in the comments are putting the word repetition. That's all great, but it's only part of the equation. And the reason why is because we don't know ourselves at a deeper level to even know what repetition we should be working on. So, let me give you an example here. You're a mom, and I know that you love being a mom. I can tell that by watching you. That's like that's who you are as a mom first, right?
Right.
A good friend of mine, I mentioned her before, Catherine Zinkina. I chatted with her last night. I'm like, "Are you retired yet?" And she's like, "Well, I'm effectively retired because I never realized I loved being a mom as much as I loved being a mom." So you are that identity. But here's what we do, and I want to take this to the next level. Is it's not just about repetition. It's that you have to know what you're going to be repetitious about at a soulful level. And then many times our values conflict and we get stuck. My friend James Wedmore, when he hired me as his coach about 7 years ago, he said, Jim, I'm making 2 million a year. I can't bust that ceiling. Why can I not bust 2 million a year? He worked with me, and within 18 months, he was at 10 million a year. The problem was that at an identity level, he had a conflicting subconscious identity. One part of him wanted to grow the business. The other part of him, his highest value is freedom. So here's the thing. Listen very carefully. So it's important that I grow my business, but to grow your business, you've got to be dedicated to growing the business and you have less freedom. But his highest value was freedom. So subconsciously, it was tug of war. Grow your business. No, if you grow your business, it's going to take your freedom away. Grow your business. No, if you grow your business, it's going to take your freedom away. And he was playing subconscious tug of war back and forth until I helped him align that. He played tug of war the entire time till we aligned it. Boom, his business shot in the stratosphere. We've got to align the subconscious values with the repetition that we're creating, or it will all fall apart.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Tony Robbins tells this story about how he had that ceiling of $1 million for 7 years. And then one day it was freezing cold. He was in Minnesota. His kids were back at his house in San Diego in the warm hot tub under the sun. And he's like literally slogging it out. And he was at a ceiling of a certain amount of money. And he
Yep.
realized that he, for him, the subconscious story was something like he wouldn't allow himself to make more than $1 million unless he dedicated it to being tithed. Like if he could give away money, but if he had this like limiting belief of like that was too much for him, anything beyond 1 million. And I think now his company's like, I don't know, 500 million, a billion, something like that. But he said it was the feeding families that allowed him to expand if he knew he could steward it. So whether that's true or not true, I had him on the podcast. He was very nice to me. I don't know much about him other than that, but
Yeah.
that is again another subconscious story, right? That he was up
Yeah.
against. And so it makes so much sense. I think part of the problem and why people, really this is the work to be working on as opposed to scrolling your phone or watching more Netflix. It's like having these conversations is so vital because what if you don't even know yet what that story is? It's hard to then even know how to get in there and
Which
change
is
it.
what we do. It's what I do is help people see the stories. But let me share something with you here. So you just bought, I went and looked it up because I want to know about you. You bought a new home, and Don Javier asked me for your address to work with you energetically.
So sweet.
So you bought a home, and I love real estate. I love real estate. So I looked up your home in Delray, I believe, right? What
Say
if
that
we
again?
said you live in Delray now, the new house, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got a
Mm-hmm.
friend that lives there as well. So he's big online. But you live in Delray, and I looked up the house. It's comparable to value of my house that I live in Sedona. But what if I said to you, you know what, Kathy? No, you've got to live in a $200,000 house. That's all you get. You know what? You're going to be like, I ain't doing that because you're going to go back to be consistent with your subconscious identity again. Guys, you've got to get that. It's about the repetition, but you have to align what you desire with the identity. You've got to do both. So you mentioned the $1 million, and here's where I'm going to go, and we can wrap up in a bit. I've got a book here. I've had it on my desk, given to me by a mentor. She's 85 now, built a multi-billion-dollar real estate company in Texas. She hired me as a coach. We became personal friends. I'll read you something she said in a minute. But she said to me 20 years ago, Jim, the first million is the hardest to make. You know that now also anything under $1 million, you ain't doing something right. Meaning something's going wrong somewhere. But many years ago, you might have said, wow, $1 million? I can't, wow. Tony Robbins did the same thing. I don't coach anybody one to one, and I rarely do one to one unless they're a millionaire. Why do you think that's the case, Kathy?
Ooh, well, you want to coach people who are coachable, and maybe under $1 million, you feel like they're still sitting in tremendous resistance to even be at the point where,
Nailed it. For
okay.
business only, guys, not life. Just for business only. Because in the group program, I coach everyone. But one to one, if you're not making 1 million a year, I'm not coaching you. Why? Because millionaires, I'm like, you've got to do A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, 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 okay. They do it. People that are not at that level yet are like, well, I don't want to do that. Let me tell you why I can't do it. And let me tell you my limitation. And let me tell you why I'm stuck. That's why the hardest million is the first to make. But once you make your first million, and I've made tens of millions, now you look at 1 million, which by the way, 1 million is not a lot of money. You look at 1 million and you're like, that's nothing anymore. But I used to be at a place where I would never make 1 million. And now I'm like, if I made $1 million a year, I'm broke. Can't afford to live if I make $1 million a year. You understand that. I know you do. But a lot of people listening don't. But it's all identity. Let me share one little passage here and we can talk more about where I can help people even more. Virginia Cook wrote this to me Christmas in like the year 2000. She's a Dallas business icon, a little 5 foot woman that is a powerhouse. And this is how to become rich. Okay. And this is how I became rich in the same way. You ever wonder how you'll change the world? Here is a question I ask myself frequently, and I always come up with the same answers: love, caring, energy, time, talent, respect, etc. I thrive on trying to be successful. Guys, notice she didn't say marketing, she didn't say strategy, she didn't say tribe building, she didn't say TikTok. Love, care, concern, and giving. Drucker wrote, success, as it seems, you will achieve the greatest results in life and career if you drop the word achievement and you replace it with the word contribution. For me, it's not about how high I've been in life, but how many people I've taken with me. That's what Robbins did and what you just conveyed just a couple of minutes ago. That's what I do. That's what you do. And we do it because we know we're serving the world, we're living our dharma, and we're living from our identity. Everyone else here needs to live their own dharma and then make the identity consistent with the dharma, and your life will take off into the stratosphere when you do that. And by the
And
way, just so people know, I'm coaching people every day, or I'm communicating with people. We literally are doing like an 8 day series right now. We're on day number 2. It's not too late. We just started releasing the first set of videos yesterday, but I'm in the group every day through next Friday. And I'm going to be looking at comments and giving tidbits and nuggets to people. And can I tell them where they can find that?
I'll tell them right now, if you go to the chat, if you go to jimfortin.com/Kathy, you guys can get in on this training that he's offering. And it's right there in the chat, jimfortin.com/Kathy. And what's so powerful about you just said about contribution, it really goes back to the identity, right? Because if you're coming from the identity of your soul that you are someone, some of the one, then you're not in lack, right? The mind is always in lack, the heart is always full. And when the identity is you are a vehicle for light, you are a vehicle for expansion, then of course you want to be a vehicle for the most amount of abundance, of energy, of joy, of oxygen, of blessing, because it pours out into the collective, because you are a piece of that, and you, like the rising tide, rises all the boats, right? So I think it's really just so powerful when we feel connected to all that is, as you talked about earlier on. I want to ask you to just tell us more about the training in terms of like, if people feel like they got a lot out of today, do they, are there other things that they're going to learn in this training? What are they going to learn that makes this a no-brainer to go ahead and watch these videos?
Well, the first videos are all free, or you can upgrade to VIP and then work with and interact with me, but everyone gets the videos. Each video is about 90 minutes long. And the first video is about identity, breaking down how you became who you are, the indoctrination, the conditioning, how your brain keeps you stuck, some things we talked about today. The second part is literally the action paradox. We're all told you got to take action. Tony Robbins built his business on that. You got to take massive action. But his mentor said, if you actually motivate an idiot, you've got nothing more than a motivated idiot. I'm not calling anybody an idiot. That's what Jim Rohn said. If you motivate an idiot, you got nothing more than a motivated idiot. So we all know that we need to take action. I did for decades, but I was spinning my wheels getting the same results. The action paradox is that we have to take action aligned with who we are at a deeper level. And the third part is escaping the trap. This is all scientifically proven. There are 6 stages of personal change, and most of us never make it past stage 3. We think that action equals change. No, it can, but generally doesn't equal change. So in part 3, they learn about the 6 psychological proven, peer-reviewed stages of personal change. Most people get stuck when they take action and they stop there. And the best example was look at Oprah. Oprah lost all this weight many years ago, and guess what? Boom, she snapped right back to the old body because why? She didn't go into what's called maintenance. We've got to maintain the change we've created. But we cover the 6 stages in there. It is a 3-part series. I used to call it the Be to Have series. I've shifted it completely. Be to have is you got to be before you can do, before you can have. And what you create in life is exactly what you be. You must be more to do more, to have more in life. And that's at jimfortin.com/Cathy, jimfortin.com/Cathy.
That's amazing. I want you to just say if there's any, not that we're going to necessarily be able to ask all these because we're signing off in the next few minutes, but I want you to put any questions you have in the chat just because I'm really curious. What are some of the things that really light you up about this topic of identity, shifting your reality, shifting your subconscious mind, really changing at a soul level what you believe about yourself? I'm curious what is coming up right now. And if you have any takeaways from what you got out of today's session, I also love to just read those because, again, through repetition and you writing down what you want to remember, I think is super helpful. But Jim, I just thought it might be cool. One of the things you said on the first podcast you were on with me is you explained so well the be do have, and you talked about why personal development industry has been so broken for so long because
Yeah.
people can go get a book and tell us why going to get a book doesn't actually make the effective change that you think it will, but you did. You read the book. You read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You read the 4 Agreements. You can quote it. You know it by heart, chapter and verse. But why is the personal development industry something that you think needs a reboot because of the be do have? I thought that was just brilliant. It's worth saying again.
Thank you. The same reason I read Think and Grow Rich back in the 90s when I was waiting tables at Chops in Atlanta. And I was waiting tables reading all these books. My roommate even said, "Isn't your brain full yet?" I read so much back in the 90s. And I read Think and Grow Rich. And it's like, oh, you can be rich and you can be a millionaire and all these kind of things. But who was reading the book? The poor kid that grew up in a small Texas town. So as the poor kid, I had never changed that, was reading the book about being rich, the poor kid's brain said, sounds good, but not for you. Sounds good, but not for you. Sounds good, but not for you. So my context, meaning context, my context was what I was. I was a poor kid from a small Texas community, a farming community. Now, my analytical mind said, I want more. I want money. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be rich, all these kind of things. And I read all the books, but my context would spit it all out, or it wouldn't be able to assimilate it and even process it. This is why many times we can say things to people, and even though they hear it, they don't hear it. Actually, they hear it, but they're not listening. Two very different things. Hearing is biological. They hear it, but the mind spits it right back out, and it is of no value to them. This is why it is vital that we shift that context, because no matter what content you put in your brain, if it's not consistent with the context, it's not going to stick and it's going to be of no value.
Oh my God, it makes so much sense. It's like, type out one in the chat if you can think of someone you know and love and root for in your life who's always arguing for their limitations and it's exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
think of someone in your life who you see so much for and they don't see it for themselves and they totally have it. Like, they have the talent, they have the charisma, they have the heart, they have all the things that would make them the best receiver of whatever you are saying you can see for them. And they argue against themselves and you sit there and you're like, This is so maddening. This is so frustrating. And now, with what you're saying, I understand why. Because if they keep seeing themselves as a certain identity, it's almost painful when you're seeing them as something other than they don't believe they are. It's like you're asking them to jump this high and they don't see that as even in the realm of possibility. So it's just a constant feeling of the gap, right? They're just seeing the gap and they're not seeing themselves for who they are. And I love what you said earlier about the changing of that, because you said if you wake up and decide, I'm going to step into the consciousness of a different identity, right? It's really wild. I've said to my students before, my clients, that one of the best ways for you to 3D print a different reality is simply like sitting on your bed, which seems like, what? I'm not out in the field like planting seeds. I'm not actually grinding and going outside and, hustling. It's like just sitting on your bed with the consciousness of a greater sense of what is possible for you and who you really are at a soul level. It starts to summon toward you a completely different life. And now, with everything you're saying, it just, there's a lot of data that backs up why that is that way.
Yeah, and I know we have to go like in 2 or 3 minutes here, but Nathaniel Branden, an MD psychiatrist back in the 60s and 70s, did a lot of research. He's like, why do women that are bulimic, why, when we see them as unhealthy, why do they keep doing what they're doing? He did a lot of research with that because in their dysmorphic view of themselves, they were overweight, even though they might have been 40 pounds underweight. So it's how we see ourselves. A good friend of mine, he's a young man, and I'm like, Cole, are you dating anyone? And he's always into his body issues all the time. Very handsome, very fit man, but I'm like, you're a handsome guy, you're an attractive guy. And he's like, no, I'm not. Who would want to date me? He can't see in himself what other people, even his mom's like, Cole, you're a really handsome guy. He doesn't get it. He doesn't see it. What we're conditioned with or what we learn, we don't even see. We're like, I'm older now, I'm 60. If I've got eyeglasses on, I'm looking at you through eyeglasses. I don't recognize that I'm seeing you through a filter. That identity is our filter, but we don't even know that we're wearing the eyeglasses. We've got to have somebody come up and go, hey, by the way, let me take this off. Oh, now I can see once we take off the glasses.
And as far as the people that you've worked with, because I know you've worked with thousands and thousands of people, do
Yeah.
you see great results that people can actually change the fact of the matter in terms of their sense of identity? Or do you feel like there's a small few? Because we've been talking about how much of a sort of epidemic this is. It's so
Yeah.
hardened, it's so wired in. Do you see the thousands of people you work with make these changes on their identity?
90%, 95% yes, 5% no. And the reason why is this. And we have testimonials. We actually offer a full refund at the end of the 13 weeks, meaning go through the entire 13 weeks. And if I don't deliver and you don't get results, just let us know. You owe us nothing. And I'm integral about that. Why? Because people online can tear you up, and I'm just not unethical. Part of my identity is do not lie, do not cheat, do not steal. I learned that as a little boy. So when people do what I tell them to do, they will get results, no question about it. But if a person won't listen or they're a know-it-all, and I even tell people, if you're a know-it-all and you won't listen and you want to argue, go somewhere else. I don't have time for that. But if you want to follow and listen to what I'm sharing with you and take the feedback I'm going to give you, which you might not always like, but I promise it's going to be loving, you will shift and change your life dramatically. And I don't even ask for testimonials anymore because we have like 600 testimonial videos, thousands of written testimonials. I don't even ask for them because they all say the same thing. I never knew I could change this fast. I never knew life could be what it could be. But here's the thing, final comment on this. Many people enroll initially because they want to get something. They want more money, better health, better relationships. What they learn with me is that you don't get more by accumulating more. You get more by letting go of more, letting go of that old self-image and that old identity. Because you said earlier about the universe and lack. There is no lack in the universe. It is all right here between these little two ears. All the lack is right here. And when you agree to let go of things, now you become a conduit for all the abundance in the universe. So, yes, absolutely. I do not lie about that stuff because it's all verifiable. Absolutely. When people will do the work, they will get spectacular results. And George Zimmerman, Men's Warehouse, I guarantee it. And I do guarantee
That's
it.
That's adorable. I just want to end it by saying that I had Ralph Macchio on my podcast, and
Ah,
you remind me of Mr. Miyagi because he said that Pat Morita and him became really close. And he said he loves that the very last freeze frame, the movie ends with a smile of Mr. Miyagi's face, not Daniel's face. And he said the reason why he loved that they made that choice directorially is because Mr. Miyagi wasn't there to teach Daniel karate. He was there to teach him what lived inside of him and who he really
yeah,
was. And I feel like that's what you do. And it actually, the reason I could say to you, I could guarantee that that exists for people, those results, because it's the truth.
it's the
And by
truth.
the way, I think we have a few things that are really powerful in us that are in common, but that's the biggest thing is that when I'm with people, like one of my friends said to me, she goes, if someone's been Cathy'd, it's like a cat that now sees himself as a tiger. It's like
I hear, yeah,
you see people with a mirror to them that's actually the greatness inside of them. And I have always, that movie, The Sixth Sense, he's like, I see dead people, and it's like kind of
yeah,
like dreary. I always feel like I see people. Like I actually see the person in front of me who doesn't see themselves.
yeah.
And it's so easy to see it. And so if you spend time with you or I long enough, you're just going to be like, okay, I think I see it now. You know what I mean? And then it's like you can't unsee it. And now it's game on.
That's exactly. You synopsize the entire program. I know we have to go, but the whole 13 weeks with me is wax on, wax off. Each week we learn something new. We practice it, wax on, wax off. 13 weeks, wax on, wax off. That's how you condition a new identity. And then you're right. Once we see something in ourselves, I can see like you, I'm sentient. I can see, I can feel people. Once they see it themselves, they'll never go back to their old way because they've started to create a new identity of themselves. Final comment. One of the first times I did TCP, a student said, if you're not cussing at, yelling at, screaming at, or mad at Jim, you're not getting your money's worth. My job is not to be your best friend. My job is to hold up a mirror and show you your, excuse me, your crap. I show you your crap, and that makes people mad. I've had people say, I want to punch you in the face. I've had people, one of my coaches said, I wanted to hit you so hard. And then later I looked at it, and yes, you were right, but I couldn't see it, and I didn't want to look at it myself. I help people see what they don't want to see so they can release it. I'm looking, Cathy, I love you. Thank you for what you do for people in the world. I'm always going to be by your side and always going to be here for you. And you guys listening, go to the free training. It's for crying out loud. It's free at the very least. Go to the free training and you will learn more and work alongside me. And we'll do calls like this every single day for the next week or thereabouts.
I love it so much. So go to jimfortin.com/Cathy and you can get in on it. I said to Jim recently, he was like, how can we connect? What can we do? I was like, how about you just coach me? I was like, I just want more of you. I want you to get into my face. I'm like, that's what I want. So I am right there with you guys wanting to soak up all of this because I've done like 1,000 episodes and there's a lot of people that talk around it. And sometimes there's little pieces and gems and all of that is beautiful. But there are at least 3 or 4 things that you said today that the way you said them, I think, type of one in the chat if I'm right or wrong. If I'm right, type of one. If you felt like I got that today, like when you talked about, okay, but you're not going to do it because you see yourself as a non-smoker, so you're
Right.
not going to smoke. It's like at the level of what is true, you will go back to be that. And when we really get that that is literally where everything is coming from, it makes us get really, really excited about really shifting that so that it is actually in alignment with who God designed you to be, with what the infinite has in store for you. So go to jimfortin.com/Cathy. Cathy's with a C, as you guys know. And Jim, thank you for always just having like cool new stories. No matter how many times I talk to you, you have 3, 4, 7 things I haven't ever heard you say that I love hearing. So thank you for being so passionate about this work and for showing up and continuously giving it over.
As the Mayans say, in Lakesh, my soul sees your soul and everyone else here. I'll reach out to you afterwards. You guys, thank you for being here. Everyone stay well. My final comment. We live in a very tumultuous world. The world is in the middle of a lot of shifting. The world needs us. Every one of you are leaders here, even if you don't see it in yourself. Why? Because other people could be here and they're not. You guys are seeing beyond other people. We have to grow and evolve and transform so we can help our friends, our family, and community, and we all live in a better world. Everyone, stay well, and I'll see many of you guys over in the TCP training. Take care,
Bless,
guys.
guys. Thank
Thank
you. Thank
thank
you,
you, Kathy.
Jim.
Bye bye.